bike and return to your seats. Now, this is something I haven't discussed with the children, but I am inviting them to come up here to help people get their bread. And you know, we have this that you have to clink twice before you. And for those who do not wish to come forward for bread, please let us know and the children can bring that to you. There's a variety here of many, many different kinds of bread. We do also have gluten-free. So for those who wish to have gluten-free, it is available. Take what you like and return to your seats. The children are at the table to help. For those who would rather remain seated, they will bring the bread to you. Once we have returned to our seats, we will gratefully listen to stories from members. Now sit and enjoy the bread. These stories may jog your own memories of events in your history. You may wish to share with your family or friends, and maybe even start a new tradition for further generations. Come forward.
choices. What we don't eat now, we'll eat later. Excuse me? You could do better. Did we eat them all up? Okay.
Well, as you can see, we have some leftovers. So at coffee hour, you are welcome to come back to the table and get some more. Now I invite those who have agreed to tell a story, and let's start with Mary. Would you like to start? Oh.
Enter from this side.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Morning, Mary Crowley. It's just a cold. I was just trying to be nice. So it was the second Thanksgiving I'd been invited to this family's table with my boyfriend. Lucky for me, I knew not to dress up this time. We went to Cousin T's house. little bungalow right next to Midway, under the airplanes. And she didn't have a dining room. Went into the kitchen. There was the table, card table. And over here, there's a stove, counter, sink, counter, microwave, shelf, door. And there's 15 or maybe 12 or 15 of us. So we filling our plates up. I got right next to the wall, I got that seat. And I had to get in like this, snuggled down and started eating our food. The turkey caused a little murmur. Everybody said, "Oh, turkey. Turkey tastes like fish." And Cousin T, rather, she did a humble brag. She goes, "Yeah, I got the turkey from my alderman." I said, "Oh, is that how they pass out turkeys these days?" So I just kind of pushed the turkey underneath my stuffing. And when we got through, it was so hot and so crowded. Finally, we squished off the table and went out into the sunshine, cool off a little bit. We talked about the turkey, how lucky we were that we didn't make that turkey. And it was going to be a clean slate. We were going to go in there, get some Cousin T's pecan pie, which was always delicious. And as we crowded back into that hot little kitchen, Uncle Don turned away from the kitchen sink with a plunger in his hand, and he said, "All the dishes and utensils in the bathtub, please." I inherited Thanksgiving from that family years later. And I was always so grateful. I had a dining room. I was happy to have the people there. We always had a great time. But I remember that Thanksgiving as, we don't want no turkey that nobody didn't send.
I think that story has probably jogged some memories that all of us have in our historical meals. Linda.
Well, I shared my Thanksgiving memory with Marylee a few weeks ago, and she said, "Oh, you should share it with everybody." But it's like 15 seconds long. So I decided to add to it and include some non-Thanksgiving meal memories. And my first one, until I was 4, we lived at 63rd in California on the bottom level of an old 2-flat. And my grandparents lived upstairs. And we would eat dinner at 6 o'clock when my dad got home. But evidently I was a hungry child because my grandparents would eat at 4. My grandmother worked at a men's clothing store around the corner, and Grandpa was a night watchman. So Grandpa would do the cooking and he'd have dinner ready at 4 o'clock when Grandma came home. So I remember crawling up the stairs, knocking at the door. My grandfather, who was a big man, would come to the door and he'd look out and he'd go, "Who's there? Who's there?" And I'd pull on his pant leg and he'd say, "Oh, it's you again. I suppose you want to eat." And I'd say yes. And he said, "Where's your quarter?" And I would hand him a quarter, which I understood later went back to my mom. So it was like a revolving quarter up and downstairs. So he would let me in, and then we would sit in the window and watch for Grandma to come down the street. And what I was really watching for was to see if she had a little white box in her hand tied with string, because she had stopped at the bakery. And I just have wonderful memories of that. My parents, my father's parents died before I was born, but we were really close to an aunt and uncle of his, Aunt Lily and Uncle Marcel, who lived in Riverside. He had a very small house with a very large, beautiful yard. If my grandparents ever took a recipe from a cookbook, it would have been Betty Crocker, but Aunt Lily's would have been more like Joy of Cooking, maybe even Julia Child, I don't know. So I remember, like, I didn't know the word elegant then, but her food was elegant. And I remember having my first al fresco meal there that wasn't hot dogs on a paper plate. We, we ate on their flagstone patio with a real tablecloth and real china, and she served what to me was the most exotic thing I'd ever eaten, which I later realized was chicken cacciatore, but to me it was very exotic. So that was always a wonderful memory. But the Thanksgiving memory we always spent with Aunt Lily and Uncle Marcel too. And, oh, I forgot, their backyard had a fish pond. That's important. So I remember this one Thanksgiving, I don't know who was there, but it was too many people to fit in her dining room, so they had set tables up in the basement. Also in the basement, they took the fish out of the fish pond and put them in big fish bowls, and they put them up on the basement windows for the winter, because I guess it was a shallow pond, so they wouldn't have survived. So I just remember sitting in the basement, in this cozy basement with all these people and all this food, and looking up and seeing these beautiful goldfish swimming on the walls, and it was magical. So there's just a couple memories, but I just want to thank the elders in my life who are long gone, who probably had no idea that they were making such memories for me. Thank you.
Adair.
I was told this had to be short, so I had to write it down, because otherwise, it would go on and on. This is the portable hot turkey adventure. Or necessity is the mother of invention. We joined the church in Southern California about 30 years ago, and soon after discovered they had a tradition of hosting potluck Thanksgiving dinners each year for those in the congregation who weren't already part of their own big family celebrations. As many of you know, I make no secret of my poor relationship with cooking. So I thought this was a fabulous idea. Our little family of 3 was quite happy to participate, sweet potato casserole being my one reliable Thanksgiving dish. Not too many years went by before the couple who were the primary organizers had to step aside. A fellow birding friend of mine stepped up to turkey duty, but participation had grown close to 40 people, and we needed 2 giant turkeys. The church oven was only big enough for 1. Jay had always said the only way to cook a turkey was in a bag. I was horrified until I tried it. I realized right away that a hot turkey in a plastic bag could be wrapped, pan and all, in several large towels and would stay hot for a long time. Actually, it turned out for more than 2 hours. I've been cooking and wrapping turkeys and popping them in the trunk of my car ever since. Just this last Thursday, in fact, we drove it up the hill to dinner at Lily and Gretchen's house.
Thank you all. This has been a really enjoyable morning with food that you still have available coffee. You have time to interact with your neighbors and friends. And thank you so much for the stories that you have shared this morning. And I'm sure there'll be further conversation among yourselves. Now, please join in singing hymn number 1008, 1008, When Our Hearts Are in a Holy Place. Story I'm going to share is called The Giving Tree, and it is from Lydia Patrick, who is a member of the Unitarian Church Congregation of Gwinnett, Georgia. I used to read this story, The Giving Tree. I used to read this story by Shel Silverstein to my students and never got through the book without tearing up. The story of that tree giving all of itself to that child who, even at the end of their life, took what the tree gave so freely. The tree absolutely gave everything it had. I recently found a website that lists 10 things we can take from this story. Don't keep score. Go barefoot. You can't outrun your problems. Just cool it. Focus